everybody, welcome back to the channel. Josh here. We are in the shop today. It is a few days after New Year's, January 3rd. A little chilly outside in the upper 30s, so it's a good day to be in the shop and continue with our winter preparations. I should actually call it spring preparations because this is the stuff that we do in the downtime as beekeepers when our bees are overwintering and all snuggled in their colonies and there's no real need to do inspections or anything along those lines. We just, check on feed and stuff like that throughout the wintertime. But you have a lot of downtime throughout the wintertime as opposed to spring and summer. And so as beekeepers, we generally spend that time in the shop doing a bunch of repairs. So I figured I'd bring you along today. You can just kind of follow along with what I'm doing. I've been processing a lot of wax lately, cleaning some wax, rendering it. You may have seen a recent video I did on how to render and process beeswax using the crock pot, which I think is personally the easiest method. I'm getting ready to fire up my Lysin wax melter and use that for my pristine wax, so that'll be on a future video here, hopefully soon. We're just a few days, less than a week away from the North American Honeybee Expo, so to say that I'm stupid excited is an understatement. I cannot wait to get there and just spend 3 solid days amongst my people and just geek out and just go nuts over all things beekeeping. I'm so excited to see all the vendor floor, the vendors there, all the different new beekeeping ideas and gadgets that they've come up with. I think it's awesome just to get your hands on that. There's going to be no shortage of amazing speakers that are going to be there. If you want to sit on those classes, there are actual classes too. I am going to be taking a class on cut comb. So always interested to learn from folks that have been doing this a lot longer than I have and have had a lot more success than I have had. That's how you learn, right? So what are we in here doing today? I've got some freshly cleaned and rendered wax in my crock pot here. And I have some leftover frames from a kit that I won at the Kentucky State Beekeeping Association annual conference in Owensboro, and it was a full Langstroth setup. So I've got my outer cover painted. I need to secure the outer cover on top of that bottom board. Yes, baby. Turn it down. Is it too loud?
I actually was looking at turns up.
Okay.
Hey, Honeybee, grab that wagon. We'll put the lunchboxes in there.
How's that?
Nice.
Okay. Daddy's making a video, okay? So give me just a minute. Sorry about that. So it came with, I think, 10 deep frames. So that's what you're seeing here, unassembled. These are the, I think they're called split wedge. It's the same as what I was using if you watched my cut comb videos where it's got this breakaway piece that goes up here on the top bar. Just like that. And I've already broken them off. And at first I was like, well, what am I going to use these for? Generally I use the groove. I use the groove and just push my foundation in there. Piece of acorn foundation like this. And word to the wise, always buy the heavily waxed foundation. Otherwise, you're going to regret it and ask me how I know. So I take these, and that's what we're going to be doing today. So I figured I would utilize these frames for my swarm traps, starter strip frames. So that's what we're going to be making today. So I take a full piece of foundation on my table saw over there, and I cut it into strips, specifically 4 equal strips. Okay, so you take this, cut it on a table saw. It is a little messy, but you don't need to use an entire frame of foundation for your swarm trap. Actually, it's not a good thing to, and I'll explain that later. Or at the very end of this video, I'll put a link to how to make these swarm traps where I kind of walk through step by step what to use and why I use these. So be sure to check that out. Hopefully that can be helpful and you'll find that interesting. But make sure that you heavily wax these. So as you can see, both sides have an extreme heavy coating of wax on them. So 1 sheet of foundation cut into 4s, and then I'm just going to assemble these frames. So you've got the bottom groove here, and then this wedge top that I said had the breakaway on it, and I've got my jig here because I figured what I'm going to end up doing is waxing these pieces of foundation for starter strips, just like I do that thin surplus. At least that's what I'm going to try to do. That's my theory. We're going to see how it works today. I just figured I'd bring you guys along for the ride. You know, some content. If you're bored and you want to watch me make frames, have at it, right? So let's go ahead and start. I use a brad nailer and 1.5" Boss Stitch nails, and I just use that to keep the frame together while the glue dries. Now, here locally, there was a recent post on Facebook where some of my buddies were saying you don't need to use wood glue for frames. It's just not necessary. Okay. I kind of disagree. I think that you should use glue. Anytime I'm putting 2 pieces of wood together like this, I'm going to be using Type Bond 3 wood glue. Just call me crazy. I want these frames to last. I have actually used a hive tool before on a frame that I bought where they just nailed it together and they didn't glue it, and I've actually had these joints pop apart before. So it can happen. Is it beekeeper fault? Maybe. I don't know. It's just trying to pry the frame out. But if you use wood glue, my old man always told me that the glue joint itself, when it's dry, is stronger than the wood grains, stronger than the actual wood itself. So that's his story. That's what I've heard my whole life, and that's what I'm sticking to. So let's go ahead and get started here. All you do is put a little bit of glue here on each of these end bars, and just make sure you have a good coating. Snap it in there, just like that. Same thing on the other side. It does stay together pretty nice. That's, I guess, probably what they're talking about when they say you don't really need glue, but I'm going to use it. I was watching a Bob Benny video on this too, when he has folks in his shop making frames, and he tells them to use a lot of glue. He said he wants to see glue oozing out the sides. Yeah, I mean, no, this stuff isn't dirt cheap, but it's not like Type Bond 3 is just absolutely insanely priced. It's not that bad. Put your bottom wedge in here, just like this. Hold it together. Take your nailer, and all you need is one shot right in the end. Turn it around. Oops. That did not work, did it? I didn't know this was going to be bloopers, but yeah, we're going to, that's hilarious. You know what you need to do first? Can anybody guess? You're supposed to put nails in your nailer. It helps when you do that. Wow. I can't even blame it on Monday. Today's Saturday. So anyway, step 1, put your nails in the dadgum nailer, and that generally helps. Isn't that amazing? Look at that. There's a nail in there now. Oh, boy. Okay, so now it should stay together. How about that? And then I just put one in each of the top here. Wow. If you ever have the nail shoot out the side here, you can just take like, generally, I just take a screwdriver with a little hammer and tap that nail joint back inside just so it doesn't hang up on the foundation or anything like that. Now, this is ready. This is it. So normally, if I was assembling frames, I would just set this aside to dry, be done with it. But we're going to make these starter strips. So I'm going to use my jig here that I use for the, like I said, the cut comb. Stick it down on there like that. I don't know how well you can see, but if here, let me get you a better angle here. Oh, let me grab one of those strips. Just want to make sure you can see this well enough on the camera. This jig makes it such that when you put this starter strip in here, it lays flush. So it has this inner piece of wood here supports the weight of this starter strip or thin surplus, whichever you're making, cut comb or these swarm trap starter strips. And then I'm just going to caulk and essentially, glue a bead of beeswax right in here to keep this in place. Then you lift this off the jig and it should stay in place. Now, this foundation obviously weighs more than thin surplus, so I'm just going to make sure that it has enough time to set up before I pull it out of the jig, because I want it to stay put, obviously. You can use any sort of little plastic syringe that you have. I get these whenever my kids have like children's Tylenol or ibuprofen or something that's a liquid. CVS Pharmacy gives you one of these. Save them. They work great for this exact purpose. I know my buddy Dave uses the syringe that you get with the thymol-based Apiguard. It's a much bigger syringe, so obviously it'll hold a lot more wax. Just whatever you have, just use what you have laying around. See, you can just soak up the wax here. Pretty simple. Make sure that it's good and hot. And then just almost like using caulk, just squirt your bead of beeswax in there, all up and down. Make sure it has plenty. And let it dry. Now, for obvious reasons, I can't leave this little syringe thing in my crock pot because it'll fall over and get completely submerged. But if you just shake most of the wax out, that'll do the trick. So let me bring you down here so you can see up close. All right. And you can see it's starting to dry there. Might need to put a little more on this, although it is starting to run out the bottom. That is the downside. Let's see here. Do this one hand. There we go. It doesn't have to be perfect, folks. Just get it to where it stays in place. And I usually wait, 3 minutes or so for this wax to harden up before I try to pull it out of the jig. And that'll keep this piece in place. As you can see, this bottom piece of wood is keeping the starter strip flush and flat and in line with this, with the frame, so that the bees will draw this down in a straight line when you trap your swarm. Those are the swarm traps my dad and I made. I have 4 of them now, I believe. And like I said, just a crock pot full of wax that you can use your syringe. While I'm waiting for that to dry, Man Lake sent me these. Yeah, baby. You're hungry? I'll get you some food here in just a minute, okay? When I'm done with the video. All right, thank you, Peanut. Man Lake sent me several of these bee cozies. I'll be doing a short on those. Put a link down in the description if you want to order these. This is the first year that I'm trying these. I have all 22 colonies wrapped with these bee cozies. So far, I'm a fan. Looks like it's fiberglass inside each side of plastic here. And when you get these on the hive, it really sort of expands. And I believe the R rating, Anne Fry was on a podcast, Better Bees podcast recently. She's an EAS Master Beekeeper. I think she said those are R8. But yeah, future video on those coming up. And then they also sent me some Pro DFM and apibioxyl oxalic acid. So we've got some 60-degree weather coming up here in Kentucky in the beginning of January. It's nuts. So we'll shoot the colonies with some oxalic acid using our Oxalica vaporizer gun there. And I've never used probiotics before, and I'm excited to try these. I know Bob Binney is a fan. It seems to be one of those debated topics in the beekeeping community. Of course, there's no shortage of those, so add this to the list of whether it's beneficial or not. But it's a direct fed microbial supplement for honeybees, and it's got all those bacteria strains in there. So good for a bee's gut, I suppose. And the directions say to put 1 tablespoon per colony. If you watch Bob Binney's videos like I do, John and Selena just will dip their hive tool into the bag or bucket of probiotics and literally just dust it on top of the cluster. The good news is you can add that in the middle of the winter when the bees are clustered together. There's nothing wrong with that. So that is exactly what I plan to do very soon. Okay, let's see if one-handed, if I can free up this frame. All right. Oh, there we go. So just like that. So you could put an extra bead in behind here if needed. I don't think it's necessary. Looks like this is holding together, me shaking it pretty well. And any sort of, leftover scrap, I generally just take my hive tool, scrape this up, put it right back into your crock pot of wax. It's that easy, folks. So this one will get set to the side. Where exactly? I don't know. Guess I could just set it over here. But yeah, just set that off to the side and get ready for your next one. Let me go ahead and put the camera back and I'll show you the swarm trap and how I use those. Like I said, be sure to check out the actual swarm trap video. I go into more detail with this. But here's what I was putting some entrance reducers. Here's what it looks like. You put that 1 frame of nasty, old, junky, dark comb, which bees love. It's like catnip for bees, for swarms. You put it in the back here. And the other 4 frames that go in here are starter strips, like what I just made. And so you'll see 1, 2 of those, 3 of those, and now I have 4 of those. So 4 of those go in the front. The 1 nasty, dirty old comb full frame goes in the back, and that's it. I've had really good luck building swarm traps like this over the past 5 years. I've caught swarms every year in these things. And like I said, I have 4 of them now. I hang them up on a tree. I don't put them 40 feet up in the air on a ladder. To me, that's just asking for disaster. You can successfully catch bees at eye level. I put them 6 feet up. And then I can easily, when a swarm's in there, just pull them right off the tree. I use ratchet straps, a special hook that doesn't hurt the tree. I'll put a link in Amazon for that too. Works great. Or maybe I got those off eBay. I think I got those off eBay. But anyway, it's worked really well for me. So let's go ahead and build another one. So 2 end bars, top bar where this piece is already broken off, and just I suppose you could put this back in if you really wanted to, and beeswax it, caulk it in. I don't see a reason for it. So I just kind of save these, use these as paint stirrers or wax stirrers. It's good, it's good pine, dried wood, maybe kindling for my wood stove. Who knows? There's all sorts of things that you can use it for. So those of you that are going to the North American Honeybee Expo, what are you looking forward to the most? Is it the trade show? Is it all the awesome discounts that you get and money that can be saved during the conference? Is it getting a chance to see your favorite rock stars like Cayman and Bob Binney, and Fred Dunn and Mr. Ed and Dirt Rooster Randy? Is it the classes that are offered? Is it the honey swap? They have a silent auction as well, which they usually have really cool stuff and a lot of it, which is nice. There is a big honey competition, I suppose, not just honey swap. If you want to try some honey from other regions of the world or other areas of the United States, but there is also, you know, honey competition too. And historically, I've just not cared much for that. That's just Josh personally, okay? Nothing against it. I think it's great. It's pretty impressive what everyone has to go through to try to get their honey so meticulous. I don't have the patience for that right now. I don't. Maybe one day I will when I'm retired. Who knows? Right now, I just don't have the patience for it whatsoever. And but I like to see what everybody submits, all the different colors of honey, depending on, you know, what the bees were foraging on, where it came from. I think that's pretty darn cool. All right, let's see here. And what else do they have? I heard it's you know, Cayman mentioned it's going to be even bigger than last year. It appears to be growing every year. He's utilizing more and more of the Kentucky Expo Center, which is a huge expo center, by the way. Don't quote me on this. I'm sure ChatGPT or Google will correct me, those of you who want to look it up. But it's something, it's top 10 in the country in terms of size, which is good because we're centrally located, right? So if you're coming from California or Maine or New York City or Florida, you know, Kentucky is at least in the middle somewhat. So selfishly, I'm very grateful that Cayman has it right here in my backyard in Louisville, Kentucky, because I get to go and then sleep in my own bed at night, which is an added plus. But those of you that are going to be, for the first time ever, they're doing a barbecue dinner the night before. Is that Wednesday night? I will be there for that. So if you see me, be sure to come up and say hello. I think it's going to be a good time. I think they were limiting it to, is it like 100, 150 attendees maybe? But it's just going to be another chance at fellowship without the other distractions going on. It's just purely for the social aspect. So it's like a social evening with other beekeepers, which is pretty cool, right? So looking forward to that for sure. Update on the apiary. Guess I'll talk about that a little bit. I lost 2 colonies very early in the winter, or you could call it late fall. These are the ones that, generally speaking, I would say, you know, they were doomed to fail. They had plenty of food in them. In fact, I've got the food frames. I set them out. We were down in the teens, so I sent these boxes outside for a few days just to make sure everything was dead and killed and gone in there, any wax moths or hive beetles. And I think the queens failed. I don't think they got mated very well. I saw one of the queens, and she was a piddly little thing. God love her. But there was absolutely zero brood, no eggs, no larvae, no nothing in there, and probably 30 pounds of food, I would estimate. So they certainly didn't starve. You know, they didn't have their bodies stuck into cells or anything like that. There's just a real small cluster of bees in each one, probably about as big as my fist on top of the bars. You could see the queen right there. And I think they just ran out of bees, literally, and failed. So, you know, that old saying, take your losses in the fall, in the winter, in the fall instead of the spring. So 24 went in. 2 of those, technically they're losses. I'll call them a fall loss, though. The rest of the bees seem to be doing great. I recently, during a warm spell, opened up each colony. You could see bees in there clustering. They were looking good, you know, anywhere between 3, 4, 5 seams of bees. And, you know, God willing, we're going to get these 22 through winter. And I was watching a video. I can't remember whose it was, but they were actually talking about it's a little bit easier, to overwinter singles. Surprisingly, maybe it was Ann Fry that was talking about this on the Honeybee Obscura podcast with Jim 2, which, by the way, Jim 2 and Ann are going to be at the North American Honeybee Expo, which is exciting. But they were talking about overwintering and how it's almost kind of counterintuitive, but the really large colonies, like the colonies that have a lot of bees, are ones that can actually fail and starve over the wintertime, especially late in the wintertime, very early spring before the flow starts, because there's just so many mouths to feed and they can run out of food. So the smaller single brood chamber clusters are a little more, they can afford to be a little more frugal because there's not as many mouths to feed, and you've got that, they tend to not run out of food as easily. And so one of the benefits, I think, of overwintering singles versus doubles, go ahead and set this aside. But I found that interesting. I'm always trying to convince people that there is a benefit, there is a reason to running singles like I do. I think I'm just trying to convince myself, quite frankly, because the EAS master beekeepers don't do that. I know they run some singles and stuff, or they'll condense them down to singles through the winter, but then as soon as that spring hits, they're going to throw that second deep on. And I don't know. I think I'm just determined to make singles work. I do like the pros. I like that it's cheaper, less equipment. You're not dealing with these mega massive colonies. It's not borderline impossible to find the queen when you need to find her. And but there are some drawbacks for sure. Absolutely. I've said this many times, like all things with beekeeping, there's drawbacks. But I don't know. So far, I'm making it work for my yard. I will point the experts are not doing it. But it is giving me some experience on that side to be able to advise newer beekeepers if they are considering running only singles or adding singles to their operation. Paul Kelly, is he the one that's real big on singles too? He was at the North American Honeybee Expo, was it a couple years ago? And he did a presentation on singles, which of course I was glued to. And he raised a lot of the same points that I have, and drawbacks. But he's been doing it way longer than I have. So it was very interesting. I don't know if this one's going to fit in the jig. There it goes. And it's a little tight. Not all frames are created equal. And these are the first Dadent frames, I believe, that I've used. Yeah, the nail come out a little bit on the side here, like I was saying. And all you do is just take your hive tool, push it back in there. I generally just take a little bit of wood glue, seal that. Not a big deal. All right, let's get this last one caulked. I'm always amazed how far some people travel to come to the expo. Obviously, I'm like one of the least in terms of distances, but what's his name? Came from France. His name's escaping me. Richard Knoll, I believe. He came all the way from France one year. I don't think he was here last year. I think it was 2 years ago. Maybe it was the first North American Honeybee Expo. And that's pretty darn far. I've been following him on YouTube, and his new honey shop is quite impressive. Hashtag goals, right? Very cool. We'll let that dry. Anything else? I think that's it, guys. I just wanted to take a few minutes here to kind of show you what I've been doing in the shop. Nothing super exciting, but this is what we do this time of year, and get everything ready because spring is going to be here before you know it. We've already passed the winter solstice, and the bees know that, and they are ramping up already. That queen is going to start laying more eggs all the way up until we hit springtime here. So it's January. We got a few more months, March, and then it's going to be game on, and the bees are going to be in the trees again. And you guys know what happens with the rest. It's very busy time to be a beekeeper in the springtime. So I will be going to Kent Williams School again in April. Hopefully you all can attend. I highly recommend it. It's so much fun. I've gone 2 years in a row now. This will be my 3rd year, and I wouldn't miss it. I wouldn't miss it. It's a lot of fun. But I think that's it for this bee video with prepping for these swarm traps. I'm probably not going to do another one before the North American Honeybee Expo, so super excited. Hope to see you all there. Please be sure to come up and say hello and shake my hand and introduce yourself to me if you watch the channel and you're a fan. I always love to meet my subscribers and my viewers. It's really cool to just put names to a face, right? So that's it. If you guys liked it, please give it a thumbs up. God bless you and your bees, and we'll see you on the next video.